Williams. Greeting people and telling stories from the front stoop of the old general store in Lorman, Mississippi on the Natchez Trace, McKinley Williams was quite the raconteur. His enjoyment of life was contagious. Velvet and leather. The colorful array of jump seat hats, halters, and lead ropes, all smelling of leather and sweat, decorated the barn wall at an equestrian camp in Sewanee, Tennessee. Onawake. Onawake Clinch is Cherokee and was once reigning queen of the 22 tribes comprising the North American Native Indian Association. This stunning young woman posed for Hubert in both traditional and modern apparel and was the subject of 5 paintings. Alma's apples. The late famous cook Alma Keener of Highlands, North Carolina, used a carryover preserving method from pioneer days. Each fall she smoked in her basement apple slices with sulfur to kill germs and to bleach the slices so as to remain white. Old playmates. At the Abington Antiques Fair in Abington, Virginia, a grouping of old dolls and a well-loved teddy bear were links to the unknowns of yesterday who had cherished their companions. Winter ballet. An apple orchard in a cove of a snowfall in no hurry to melt suggested the graceful postures of dancers. The old master, long beyond seasons of fruit, was the leader of their performance. Pride of Granny Squirrel. In western North Carolina, in the community called Granny Squirrel, a fox-chasing dog in lean and ready condition awaited an evening's activities. From atop his 55-gallon house, he kept watch. Rome Beauties. On a rainy morning at the farmer's market, a basket of perfectly round, ripe apples was the star of all the produce displayed. Not too sweet, not too tart. The Rome Beauty is the quintessential apple. Bullet standing deer. Living on the Qualla boundary at Cherokee, North Carolina, Bullet was an award-winning traditional dancer at the town's annual festivals and at Native American festivals throughout the country. Morning Light. A typical early-era home in the short-off community of Highlands, North Carolina. The interior space was limited, so the washing machine was located on the front porch. Rocky Horse. In a Vermont village a well-used rocky horse with peeling layers of previous coats of paint, was featured in the window of an antique shop. Generations of children had fun riding the stylish steed. Little Silky. A makeshift cabin in remote woods near Woodstock, New York, was where Silky lived with her father and his companion, both hiding out from the law. By day they forged dumpsters, and at nightfall hosted bonfire parties with the nearby hippie commune where Silky's mother lived. Silky was friendly, but with an air of defiance. The Francis Mill. Located in Francis Cove, near Waynesville, North Carolina, this overshot mill was built in 1850. Both mill and adjoining lands of William and Mary Almond Francis remain in ownership of their proud descendants. Maggie Wachacha. A legend in her own time, and only the second Cherokee in the tribe's history to be designated beloved woman, Maggie was 94 years old when she posed in her Robbinsville, North Carolina home. Nancy Ward, friend of pioneer settlers, was in the 1750s named the first beloved woman. Cook stove. In a rustic home in Highlands, North Carolina, the kitchen, with its view of an old orchard, held memories of pies and biscuits baked in a wood-burning stove. The Sheep Herder. A seasoned sheep herder in a bar near the Texas Rio Grande Bridge posed for hours over mugs of beer. He was pleased to be the center of attention in the bar, but spoke not a word. The bartender explained that the man was a regular, deaf, and also unable to read. Yet his face told the story of strength in whatever life offered. Festival Dancer. Audrey Hickman was a Choctaw from Memphis, Tennessee. Her measured interpretation and authentic attire at the Women's Fancy and Traditional Dance Competition at the Cherokee Cultural and Ceremonial Grounds made her a star subject. Mountain Bouquet. A homemaker in Estill, Tennessee, appreciated the beauty of wild sunflowers gathered from her pasture. She let them continue to follow the sun in an old snowdrift can on her front porch. Roller Mill. The Cosby Mill, sitting on a bank of the Nolichucky River in Cosby, Tennessee, once supplied major southeastern markets with flour. When operations ceased, the venerable structure stored hay before burning to the ground in 1981. Orchard Asleep. High above the town of Maggie Valley, North Carolina, the fragrance of fallen fruit permeated an old orchard. Lichen colored the trunk of the tallest of the trees, and hidden among its jumbled unpruned branches, a few apples refused to fall. Autumn's sleepy light would soon give way to the cold light and winds of winter. Echoes of praise. The front door to an abandoned country church in southwestern Georgia was ajar. Leaves had blown in and huddled around the spinet. The loud hymns of praise the old piano had proclaimed seemed to echo in the poignancy of silence. Martha Owl. Dressed in traditional 19th century Cherokee attire, Martha, at the Oconaluftee Indian village at the Qualla boundary, demonstrated the art of wampum, or intricate beadwork. Her fingers gently worked designs that retold the stories and symbols of a proud people. Henrietta's Hen House. Southeast of Demopolis, Alabama, in the tiny community of Dayton, Henrietta Brown had one rooster and several varieties of laying hens. Their separate hen house was large and a scene of constant activity. This painting was one of the artist's largest watercolors. Independence Day. The Ship Motel and Restaurant, built in 1923, overlooked 3 states and 7 counties from its Somerset, Pennsylvania site. Sadly, it burned to the ground several years ago. It actually was on the 4th of July when the small colonial flag, juxtaposed with contemporary neon sign in the window of the restaurant, reminded regulars and visitors alike of our nation's hard-fought independence. The Bishop's Wife. The late Della Miller of Grantsville, Maryland, was the wife of Mennonite Bishop Ivan Miller. She agreed to pose if she could be holding, as a testament to her faith, the 250-year-old German Bible her ancestors brought to America. Reverie. 94 years of age when she welcomed Hubert and me to her Robbinsville, North Carolina home, Maggie Wachacha posed in a variety of clothing. Here she is nodding off to sleep with hands resting on a split oak basket she had made years earlier. Wild apples. On a return trip to Highlands, North Carolina in 1978, we visited World's End, home of friends and former neighbors on Satula Mountain. From several old, unpruned apple trees on the property, they had picked fall's first fruits. Queen Jean. Known as the Queen of Dulcimer people, Jean Ritchie of Viper, Kentucky, played to worldwide audiences and made numerous recordings of her ballads. She had early on taught herself to play her family's old black dulcimer before her surprised father undertook to teach her, saying, "If you can play, you can play. If you can't, you can't." Tin roof. Beneath the boards and battens of a farmhouse in Middle Tennessee was an early settler's log cabin. Following a bloody battle in the Civil War, wounded soldiers took refuge in the empty cabin. Sunday morning. Marty Wilson had the daily job of feeding the family's chickens. Dressed for church, she wore rubber boots to protect her Sunday shoes. Speaking to the rooster and hens in affectionate tones, she offered teasing dribbles of grain. Country kitchen. On a hot summer day, a farmer in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley invited us in to have a drink of water. The dipper floated high on the bucket filled with sweet spring water. August wildflowers. A handy little basket seemed the perfect container for a bouquet of wildflowers gathered in late summer. Hubert admired the arrangement, its colors, textures, and natural design.